Welcome to the narrated account of the Brownsburg High School trip to Peru, narrated by a person who was not there, so some of the details will be sparse, and some will be, of course, deeper than they might otherwise be. This is an NTC poster that includes some major characters in Peruvian history, a la Simón Bolívar. But you start your journey in Lima, the capital of Peru. Lima is a city, you may not believe it, one of the top 20 most populated cities in the world, with 7.5 million people. 1 out of 4 Peruvians lives in the city of Lima. In addition to being a giant city and industrial area, Lima is also the cultural center of Peru. Now, the Europeans, the Spanish, landed in 1532, and things changed dramatically. You can see from the churches and the buildings the influence of the Spanish architecture, the Baroque building styles coming over from Europe, the plazas, much like Spain. When you head off into other parts of Peru, this all changes. When Spain took over South America, they created viceroyalties. So they had the viceroyals, or the vice kings of sorts. And not quite related to that, the name was originally the City of Kings in Spanish, but it reverted to its Indian name, its Amerindian name of Lima. When NETC takes you into Lima, the stops include not only the National Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, but also a visit to the cathedral, Plaza de Armas, the Church of San Francisco, San Domingo Convent, and the Presidential Palace. The schedule of an NETC trip to Peru is all at once wonderful and amazing because you have 3 flights internally in addition to your flights down there, and that enables things like, time permitting, a visit to Pachacamac, which is the divine maker or earth maker, god, and a site southeast of Lima that dates back almost 2,000 years, is pre-Incan. Next stop for the Brownsburg group is a flight into Porto Maldonado in the Amazon Basin, the biodiversity capital of the world, of the universe maybe, to an eco-lodge that's pretty unusual in the sense that it's high-end lodgings and great chances to see things like toucans and hear the noises of the jungle in the distance. And remember, in a rainforest, much of the life is up in the canopy, 50 to 150 feet above the floor of the rainforest, with monkeys abounding. But do understand that a huge amount of the animals that live in the rainforest cannot be easily captured on a photograph, like these posing travelers. A few of them in the evening can be amazing to see. And a huge amount of this amazement is caused by the guides. The guides, bilingual, sometimes speaking in Spanish, so the students get to practice that, know so much about this forest, their backyard, including some of the spiritual practices that are motivated, that are inspired by what's happening in the rainforest. Human-powered and motorized long dugout canoes for transit on internal waterways. This one is obviously motorized and quite long. Swimming is an option. The Oxbow Lakes. And of course, in the lodge, in the evening, fun abounds. Humor, review of the day, music, and good spirits and good friendship. Back to the airport and off in a plane to the high mountains of the Andes. They average 13,000 feet of elevation, the high point at 23,000, almost 7,000 meters. But we're not going that high. We're going into the region near Cusco. This is Incan construction you see here, and 1,000 odd years later, you could take a sheet of paper and you can't slip it between the stones. This is one of the reasons it's legendary, and one of the reasons one of the sites you'll see has been voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Thanks to recent tourism, the population of Cusco has tripled from 100,000 to 300,000, but it was once considered to be the capital, the presumed capital of the Incas. And later, again 1534, in this case Pizarro, the conquistador from Spain, arrived, and much was destroyed. Some of the history is, of course, uplifting, and other parts of it grim, but these days, this is a buoyant place for a journey. The musical instruments you see here, the pan flutes, in this case Peruvian pan flutes or zampoñas, and if I've timed this right, you'll hear the music in the background. This was a great evening for the Brownsburg group, and then it was off to see some of the most amazing constructions, certainly in Andean history and probably in world history. But first, a visit to some of the animals that are famous, the llama. Llama are related to camels from that family, and they can range in weight from 250 to 450 pounds. They have a similar domesticated relative with slightly softer fur, and of course many of these things are made into sweaters and other garments in Peru, called the alpaca. A visit to see them, it's just a joy, because they're quite unusual creatures, and as I said, their fur is woven into all kinds of garments, not these, furs. No words and no pictures can give proper descriptions of the valleys and the constructions of the Incas and the other related cultures. Here you see the site of Ollantaytambo. This is famous in part because it's one of the few sites, maybe the only site, where the Incas were able to move up and beat the Spaniards in battle temporarily. Where the influence became quite distinctive. Some of the waters that the Incas turned into everything from drinking water to taking away wastewater still runs through the troughs, the stone troughs of these places. It's incredible, much like the Roman constructions in the aqueducts. Here you see where water is cut through stone and created an amazing historical measure, but then you rise to the top. Here it is, the famous, the unrivaled. In all my visits to many places around the world, this one exceeded all my expectations and then some, Machu Picchu. The sites you see here are complex and difficult to explain. Imagine these people building this on a ridge, maybe well over 1,000 feet above the river below, and doing it with stones brought up from different places, leveling out the fields there, all this without equipment. Remember, there were no horses. They did use the llama as pack animals, but beyond that, this is considered an incredible construction, and it's the presumed winter residence of some of the most noble and important rulers of the Incas, who came up into the mountains during that time period, up close to the sun. I'll warn you, this is not a great place for people who have fear of heights, and I'm one of them, but when you arrive there, it takes your breath away. One of the most amazing spectacles. And now we're toward the end of our journey. Friends have been made, incredible places seen, and it's back home to Brownsburg High School to share these stories with friends. I hope you'll consider a voyage to Peru. Underrated and over-delivers. Incredible. And be clear, I didn't mean to say that Simón Bolívar was Peruvian, only that his part in history had a big influence on what became the country we know as Peru these days. It's hard for any collection of photos to get the breadth and depth of a place, so I'm throwing in a few extras here. Chris Montgomery, one of our decorated tour directors from the European theater, as we might call it, went down to Peru and took these shots, and I'll leave you with some Peruvian music and some extra special final variety of shots to take a peek at.